The air was thick with smoke and heat. Torches burned around the wide arena, their flames twisting in the dusty wind. Alien voices roared from the high stone seats, a crowd waiting for blood, for victory, for tradition. But the human soldier did not know the truth. He only thought it was another mission, another drill, another test of survival. His boots pressed into the sand as he walked forward. The sound of drums shook his chest, each beat like a heartbeat of something ancient. He adjusted his grip on the steel blade they had given him, heavy and curved, unlike the weapons he trained with. The alien guards had pushed him into the circle, calling it an honor, saying he must prove himself before their people. He believed them. He believed it was just combat. He did not see the strange eyes watching from across the arena, eyes that burned not only with challenge but with something far deeper. From the other side she appeared tall, armored with shining plates that curved across her body. Her skin held markings like silver lightning across her arms and throat. She walked with confidence, her chin high, her blade held in perfect balance. The crowd rose to their feet, chanting her name. The soldier could not understand the words, but he felt the weight of them pressing down. This was not an ordinary duel. Something about the air told him the truth was hidden. The alien woman stopped only a few steps away from him. She looked at him as if measuring his soul. Her lips curved slightly, not quite a smile, not quite a threat. Her voice, when she finally spoke, carried through the arena like thunder. "You accepted," she said slowly in broken English. "Then you are mine." The human frowned, confused. He thought it meant she was ready to fight, but the crowd roared louder, shaking the ground with their cries. The soldier's heart pounded. He remembered the briefing. This species was known for strength, for battle, for rituals, but no one told him their deepest secret. Their species reproduced through combat. A clash of blades was not just a fight. It was a bond, a law, a choosing, and he had already stepped forward, already accepted without knowing what it truly meant. The drums stopped. Silence fell heavy. He raised his weapon, his body tense, his instincts ready for survival. She raised hers, her eyes never leaving his. But in her gaze there was no hate. There was hunger, there was need. She whispered words in her own language, too soft for him to understand. Yet the crowd gasped as if her vow was sacred. They knew. They all knew. And only he stood blind in the middle of the truth. The first clash rang out like thunder, steel against steel, sparks in the dark. The human pushed hard, his strength surprising even himself. She pushed back with equal force, her muscles alive with power. Around them the crowd screamed in joy. Every strike, every block, every movement was not just violence. It was a ritual, it was life itself for them. But for him it was only survival. He had no idea that with every strike, every drop of sweat, he was binding himself closer to her. She moved with speed, twisting, spinning. He blocked, his arms aching. The dust rose in clouds, choking the air. Her blade missed his throat by inches. He stumbled, rolled, rose again with fury. The crowd cheered his will, their chants turning into rhythm. The alien woman's breath grew heavy, but her eyes never left him. She was studying him, testing him, feeling his strength against her own. And with each moment she grew more certain. This human was different. This human was chosen. The soldier gritted his teeth. He felt the weight of 1,000 eyes watching. Every nerve in his body screamed at him to fight harder, faster, stronger. He did not realize the crowd was not waiting for his death. They were waiting for his claim, waiting for the moment one of them would yield and the ritual would be complete. The alien girl's chest rose and fell with ragged breath. She looked at him as if she had already decided her fate. But he still had no idea what he had stepped into. The drums began again, faster this time. The ground shook with every beat. The alien girl raised her blade high. The human soldier tightened his grip, sweat dripping from his brow. The crowd's chanting turned into a single word, repeated over and over, a word he could not understand, but one that made his skin crawl. He looked into her eyes and saw it, the truth hidden behind the fight. And in that instant he realized this was not just a duel. This was something else, something dangerous, something binding, but it was too late. The challenge had already begun and there was no way out. The clash of blades echoed long after the first strike. Dust still hung in the air. Torches flickered like restless spirits. The human soldier steadied himself, breathing hard, his eyes fixed on the alien warrior before him. He thought he was only fighting for survival, for honor, maybe even freedom. But for her, This battle carried another meaning. One too old, too sacred, too dangerous to explain. Her name was Saria. Among her people she was more than a fighter. She was a chosen daughter of the warrior line. Her tribe believed strength was life, and combat was creation. No child was born without a duel. No bond was sealed without blades, and tonight, her body carried the weight of expectation. She was supposed to fight another of her kind, claim victory, and with it continue the bloodline. But fate brought her something different, something more dangerous. A human, a deathworlder, something her people feared and desired in equal measure. Saria's eyes never left him. The way he moved, fast and raw, no wasted effort, no hesitation. His strikes were heavy, not refined, but they carried the wild strength of someone who had lived through battles harsher than any ritual. Every scar on his face, every muscle tensed in his frame spoke of survival. And survival, in her people's law, was the most sacred sign of all. She felt her chest tighten, not from fear, but from recognition. This was no ordinary opponent, this was no accident. This was destiny walking into her arena. The human soldier circled her carefully. Blade ready, he had no idea of her thoughts. No idea that each movement was being judged in ways beyond combat. To him it was simple, fight, live, escape. But to her, every strike meant something else. Every clash meant connection. Every wound meant a bond. Her people's law was clear. Whoever matched her strength was her partner. Whoever survived her fury became her mate. And this human was not only surviving, he was thriving. The crowd shouted her name. Their voices shook the walls of the stone arena. They wanted her victory. They wanted tradition to be complete. But Saria hesitated, her strike slowed. Her eyes lingered on him too long. Something inside her shifted. She saw not just a rival, not just a partner by law. She saw a force that made her heart tremble. A power she could not control. For the first time in years of training, she felt the sharp edge of doubt. The human soldier noticed it. He saw her pause for half a second, the way her eyes flickered with something other than rage. He did not understand it, but he felt it. That look was not of an enemy who wanted him dead. It was of someone who wanted something else, something hidden. He frowned, his blade still raised, sweat dripping down his temple. But inside, a question burned. Why did she hesitate? Why did she look at him like that? Saria's heart pounded. She thought of her mother's words. Long ago, choose strength, my daughter, not beauty. Not kindness, only strength. For strength is the fire that makes life. She had believed those words all her life, but this human confused her. He was not of her blood, not of her world, and yet when his blade clashed against hers, when his voice growled in effort, when his eyes locked with hers, she felt the fire her mother spoke of, not in hatred, but in something dangerously close to desire. The battle raged on, sparks flying with every strike. The human soldier fought harder, faster, his instincts sharpening like steel. He was not fighting for tradition. He was fighting because his life demanded it. But the more he fought, the more the crowd seemed to chant his name. They had never seen such raw power, such wild strength. Their voices turned from calling Saria's name to whispering his, whispering the impossible. Could the outsider, the human, be chosen? Saria's blade cut close, grazing his arm, a line of red spilling across his skin. He winced but did not falter. Instead, he drove forward, pushing her back step by step. Her breath came heavy, her chest rising and falling, her silver markings glowing faintly in the torchlight. She had trained all her life to dominate, to conquer. But now she found herself yielding inch by inch, not because she was weak, but because her heart betrayed her. Her body was telling her something her mind refused to accept. This human was already becoming part of her. The crowd roared louder, the drums returned. The ritual was reaching its peak. Every elder in the stands leaned forward, waiting for the end, for the moment one would fall, for the bond to be sealed. Saria's grip tightened on her blade, her mind spinning. She could win. She could end this quickly. But she did not. Her eyes met his again, and for a heartbeat, time stopped. In that moment, she made a choice, not of weakness, not of defeat, but of surrender. A surrender that was not just to him, but to the law of her people, to the fire in her veins. The human soldier stood firm, confused but relentless. He thought victory was close, but he did not know. He did not know that every strike was not just a fight, but a vow. He did not know that the alien warrior had already decided. that no matter what happened next, their fates were already bound. The torches hissed in the smoky air, the crowd's chanting grew louder, their voices blending into a wild storm. The human soldier wiped the sweat from his brow with the back of his hand. His blade still raised, before him Saria stood, her silver-marked skin glowing faintly under the light, her chest heaving with heavy breaths. The battle was far from over, and both of them knew it. The human lunged forward, his boots digging into the sandy ground. Their blades clashed again, sparks flying like tiny stars in the night. The sound echoed off the stone walls. Sharp and violent, Saria blocked, twisted, and struck back with lightning speed. But the human's instincts carried him. He bent low, dodging, his own blade flashing upward. The crowd screamed at the sight of it, some in horror, some in awe. For them, this was not just a fight, it was a sacred ritual, the oldest law of their blood. The soldier did not understand. He only knew that if he slowed, if he stumbled, he would die. Each swing of his blade was heavy, his muscles burning, but his eyes stayed locked on hers. Searching, trying to read her next move, Saria felt that gaze pierce through her. It was not just the stare of an enemy. It was something deeper, something she could not name. Her hand shook for only a moment, then she steadied herself. She could not afford to show weakness before her people, not when the entire arena watched. Their blades rang again and again. The rhythm of the fight matched the rhythm of the drums above. Every strike was faster, harder, more desperate. The sand beneath their feet turned red where blood spilled. A cut across the soldier's arm, another across Saria's shoulder, both of them bleeding but neither yielding. The crowd leaned forward as one, caught in the storm of combat. They knew the ritual was reaching its breaking point. The human soldier's thoughts blurred. Training told him to kill quickly, to finish the fight and survive. But something inside him held back. He did not want to end her life. Even though she came at him with fury, even though the crowd screamed for blood, every strike he gave was meant to defend, to hold her back, to prove he could not be broken. Saria felt it, she saw it in his eyes. This was not a man fighting to destroy, this was a man fighting to endure. And that difference shook her more than any blade could. Her people believed love was born in violence. They believed only through pain and blood could two become one. But here was a man from a distant death world, a man who had no idea of her customs, and yet he fought her with the same fire her ancestors demanded. Not because of ritual, not because of law, but because survival was carved into his soul. Her heart trembled with every clash. The bond was forming, whether he knew it or not. The soldier staggered as her blade grazed his ribs. Pain shot through his body, but he gritted his teeth and pushed forward. He slammed his shoulder into her, knocking her back against the stone wall. The crowd erupted, half in anger, half in excitement. Never had they seen their champion pressed so hard. Saria's breath caught as she looked into his face, so close, his eyes burning with wild determination. Her pulse quickened, her blade shook in her hand. She should have struck him then, ended it, but she did not. Instead, she whispered something in her own tongue, a word of surrender, a word of bond. The elders gasped, their voices rising in shock. The human soldier did not understand, but he felt the change in the air. The crowd's cries shifted from rage to fevered chanting. The sound pounded in his ears like thunder. He raised his blade again, uncertain, his heart racing. Saria pushed away from the wall, her eyes glowing brighter, blood dripped down her arm, her face twisted with pain and something else, desire. Fear, hope all at once. The fight continued, but it was different now. Her strikes slowed, softer, as if she was no longer trying to kill. His defense grew sharper, stronger, as if he was realizing her hesitation. Steel clashed, sand flew, blood stained the ground. But something invisible tied them together with every blow. The crowd felt it, the elders saw it. The ritual was being fulfilled in ways no one expected. A human soldier, unknowing, was completing the bond of their kind. Saria's knees weakened for a moment. The human's blade pressed close, almost at her throat. Her breath trembled, her hand slipped, and in that instant the crowd roared like fire. For them it was clear the human had proved his strength. The bond was sealed even if he did not yet realize it. The soldier pulled back, confused. Why did they cheer? Why did she not strike again? He panted, sweat and blood dripping down his body. Saria's eyes softened, her blade lowered. She whispered in broken English, her voice shaking. "You are mine now." The soldier's heart froze. The crowd's chant shook the ground. His name, her name, tied together in one voice. Blades had brought them here, blood had sealed the moment, and nothing would ever be the same again. The arena shook with the voices of the crowd. The air was thick with dust, sweat, and the iron taste of blood. The human soldier stood with his blade still raised, his chest heaving, his heart pounding like the drums that rolled above. Before him, Saria knelt on one knee, her weapon pressed weakly into the sand, her silver-marked skin shining faintly under the firelight. The crowd screamed his name, but he did not understand their words. He only knew the fight was not yet finished. And yet something inside told him it was already over. Saria's breathing was uneven. Every breath carried pain, every muscle trembled. She had fought many battles before, but none like this. Her body ached not only from the strikes, but from the fire burning inside her chest. This human had broken through her strength. He had matched her fury, step by step, blow by blow, and now, staring at him through blurred vision, she felt something she had never felt before. Not defeat, not hatred, but surrender of a different kind. The soldier frowned, confused. He could not understand why she lowered her blade, why her eyes looked at him with that strange softness. Was this a trick? Was she baiting him? He tightened his grip, his survival instinct screaming to end it. But another voice inside, quiet but firm, told him to stop. He hesitated, sweat dripping down his face. The crowd's chanting grew louder, urging him to strike, urging him to finish, but he stood frozen, caught between life and something he could not yet name. The elders in the high seats leaned forward. Their ancient eyes glowed with recognition. They saw it now, clearer than anyone else. The ritual had reached its breaking point. One more strike would seal the bond forever. One final moment of will would decide the future of both warriors. The crowd roared like thunder, waiting, hungry for the end, but neither of them moved. Saria forced herself to stand. Her leg shook, her blade rose again. The crowd cheered in wild relief. But her strikes no longer carried the same fire. Each swing was slower, weaker. Her heart was no longer in the fight. It was somewhere else. Bound by something she could not resist. The human soldier blocked easily now, his strength still steady, his eyes locked on hers. Every time their blades met, she felt her will crumble. Every spark that flew between steel felt like a spark inside her soul. The soldier pressed forward, his attack strong and fast, but his blade never struck to kill. He could have ended it many times. Yet he chose not to. He did not know why. Perhaps it was mercy, perhaps confusion, or perhaps something deeper, something hidden in his heart. Whatever the reason, Saria felt it. And with every spared blow, her chest burned hotter. Her people believed bonds were forged in blood and pain, but this human was showing her something new. That strength was not only in striking, but in choosing when not to strike. The crowd grew restless. Some shouted for the human to finish it. Others begged Saria to rise and win. The drums beat faster, harder. The sound was deafening. Saria stumbled, her knees buckling. The human caught her with his free hand, pushing her back to her feet instead of letting her fall. Gasps spread through the crowd like wildfire. This had never happened before. No warrior had ever spared their opponent at this stage. The elders exchanged dark glances. They knew this battle was rewriting the law itself. Saria looked into his eyes. Her lips trembled, words unspoken. She could not say it, not in front of her people. But her heart screamed it. He was already hers, and she was already his. Not because the law demanded it, but because something greater had chosen it. Her blade slipped from her fingers. Clattering into the sand, the sound silenced the arena. Every voice froze, every drum stopped. The moment stretched into eternity. The human soldier lowered his blade slowly. He stepped closer, his shadow falling over her. She bowed her head, her silver markings glowing brighter as if in answer to some unseen call. The crowd erupted in chaos, half cheering, half screaming in rage. Some shouted that the bond was complete, others that it was broken. The elders rose to their feet, their voices thundering over the noise. The law is fulfilled, one declared. But another growled. The law is broken. Confusion swept through the people like a storm. The soldier looked around, his chest heaving. He did not know what he had done. He only knew he could not strike her down, and now, the world around him seemed to collapse in noise and fury. Saria lifted her gaze, her eyes shining with tears she did not want to show. You do not know, she whispered in broken English. But you are bound. The soldier's heart froze. Her words cut deeper than any blade. The drums stopped once more. The crowd's voices became a roar of thunder. And in that storm of fire and fury, both of them knew the breaking point had come, and nothing could stop what followed. The arena still roared like a storm. Half the crowd shouted in triumph, the other half screamed in outrage. The human soldier stood in the center, his blade lowered, sweat dripping from his brow. Before him, Saria knelt in the sand, her silver-marked skin glowing faintly, her weapon abandoned at her side. The elders argued among themselves, their voices sharp and cold. Some declared the bond complete. Others said it was broken. But one truth could not be denied. Saria had yielded. The soldier's chest rose and fell with heavy breaths. He had fought battles before against machines, against men, against beasts of his own world, but never had he seen anything like this. This was not just survival, not just combat. It was something else, something sacred to these people, and he had stumbled into it without knowing. Saria raised her head slowly, her eyes locked on him, glowing faintly as though fire lived inside her. Her lips trembled before she spoke, her voice raw but steady. "You fought me," she whispered, "and you stand. So you are mine." The soldier froze, her words sinking into him like a blade. The crowd erupted again, voices wild and unstoppable. They chanted their names together, binding them in sound. But he shook his head in disbelief. He had no idea what he had agreed to. He took a step back, his blade still in hand. "I didn't come here for this," he muttered under his breath. The words meant nothing to them, but his tone carried confusion and fear. The guards pressed closer around the circle, blocking any path of escape. The elders raised their hands for silence. One of them, an ancient figure with deep golden eyes, spoke in a voice that shook the ground. "It is done," he said. "The ritual cannot be undone. The bond is sealed." The soldier looked from face to face. He wanted to argue, to refuse, but Saria rose to her feet, her body weak, her movement slow. Still, she carried herself with dignity. Her gaze unbroken, she walked toward him, every step heavy with meaning. When she stopped before him, the arena fell silent again. Her hand reached out, trembling but firm. She touched his chest where his heart pounded. Her voice broke as she whispered in his tongue. "You belong with me now." The soldier's breath caught. He looked down at her, seeing not just a warrior but something else. Her silver markings glowed brighter under her skin. Her people's law was alive within her, and it was binding him too. He stepped back, shaking his head. "I don't understand," he said, his voice rough. Saria's eyes filled with something he had never expected from her. Vulnerability. This was no trick, no trap. She had given him more than surrender. She had given him her trust. The crowd erupted again, drums thundered. Feet stomped against the stone seats, the chants grew louder, turning into one word repeated again and again. The human soldier did not know its meaning, but Saria did, and it made her chest tighten with both pride and fear. It was the word for bonded, a title given only once in a lifetime. And now it was theirs. The soldier lowered his weapon completely. He could not strike her, not after this, and deep down, he realized he never wanted to. He had seen her strength, her fire, her will to fight until the end. But he had also seen her humanity, or what felt like humanity. That strange mix of defiance and fragility. And now he stood trapped between two worlds, his own instincts telling him to run, and his heart telling him to stay. Saria bowed her head before him. Her voice carried across the arena, strong now, no longer trembling. "I surrender," she said, not in weakness, but in choice, the elders gasped. The crowd fell silent again, for in their law, surrender had never been spoken aloud. It was always shown by falling, by defeat, by silence, but never with words. Her defiance of tradition was clear, and yet no one dared move against it. The soldier reached out almost against his will. His hand brushed against hers, rough skin against glowing markings. The crowd roared once more, louder than ever before. The bond was complete in their eyes. He stood frozen, still not fully understanding. But the warmth of her hand against his chest told him there was no turning back. Saria whispered again, soft enough only for him to hear. "You think this is an ending, but it is only the beginning." The soldier's heart tightened. Her words carried weight, a promise and a warning. He looked around the arena, every eye was on him. Every voice called for him, there was no way out. He had not just won a fight, he had accepted a bond that could change his life forever. And though he did not know it yet, the galaxy itself would feel the weight of that surrender. The arena did not calm after Saria's surrender. The crowd split like a storm, some cheering as if history had been made, others hissing in fury as though their laws had been broken. Drums stopped, but the echo of thousands of voices rolled through the stone walls. The human soldier stood frozen, Saria's hand still against his chest, her silver markings glowing brighter than before. He had no words, no answers, only the heavy weight of something he could not escape. The elders rose from their high seats, their robes glittering with threads of gold and black. One elder with deep golden eyes stepped forward, his voice carrying across the silence. "The bond is sealed," he declared. "The warrior has chosen, the human has answered, and the law has spoken." But another elder, older and colder, slammed his staff against the stone floor. "The law is twisted," he growled. "The bond was meant for our blood, not for an outsider." The crowd gasped, torn between tradition and truth. The soldier clenched his jaw, his hand tightening on his blade. He still did not understand everything, but he knew one thing. He was now part of something far greater than himself. Saria stood tall beside him, though her body still trembled from the fight. Her voice cut through the noise, firm and defiant. "He fought me, he did not fall, he spared me. And I chose," she said, "this bond is mine, and no elder can unmake it." Her words echoed across the arena. The younger warriors in the crowd shouted in support. The older ones snarled and spat. The law had never been challenged in this way. Not once in generations. The human soldier looked at Saria. He saw the fire in her eyes, the stubborn strength that had carried her through the fight. And he realized something. She was not just surrendering to him. She was standing for him. She was risking everything, her honor, her place, even her life, to protect a bond he did not fully understand. His chest tightened for the first time. He wondered if this was not a mistake. But fate. The guards moved forward, their weapons raised. Some elders whispered for the bond to be broken by force. But Saria stepped in front of the soldier, her arms spread wide. "You will not touch him," she warned, her voice trembling with fury. The guards hesitated, their eyes flicking to the elders. But the crowd's roar rose again. Half of them demanded blood, the other half demanded honor. The air shook with their rage. The soldier lifted his blade, ready to fight again if he had to. He did not care about their laws, their rituals, their chants. He only knew one thing. He would not let them cut her down for standing by his side. His voice boomed across the circle. "Rough and fierce, if you want me," he growled. "You'll have to go through me." The crowd gasped. The alien language was not his, but the fire in his tone needed no translation. Saria turned her head, her eyes locking on his for a moment. Her heart skipped a beat. This human did not know her customs, her laws, or her history, but he stood for her. He had claimed her not only with blade, but with choice. Her lips parted, trembling with unspoken words. She had never felt this before, this mix of fear and hope, and she knew whatever came next, she would not face it alone. The elders raised their staffs. "The bond is sealed," one said again. "But it must be judged." The soldier's stomach twisted. What judgment meant in their law, he did not know, but Saria's jaw tightened. Her voice sharp. "You will not break us," she said. "If you cast me out, then I will leave with him." The arena erupted again, louder than ever before. This was rebellion, this was chaos. This was history breaking before their eyes. The soldier's mind raced. He had come here as a fighter, nothing more. And now he was bound to a woman from another world, tied by blood and law he never asked for. Yet when he looked at her, when he saw the strength in her gaze, he felt something strange, something that told him this was not the end of his story, but the beginning. The crowd's chanting rose again, their voices splitting the night sky. Some called for exile, others called for union. The elders argued among themselves, their faces twisted in rage and fear. In the middle of the storm, Saria whispered to him, her hand still pressed against his chest. "You do not understand yet," she said softly, "but you will one day." The soldier swallowed hard, his eyes narrowing. "Then tell me," he said. "What happens now?" Her eyes shimmered, her lips trembling. "Now," she whispered. "We pay the price." The drums thundered again, the guards stepped forward, and the elders raised their staffs. The bond was sealed, but the consequence was just beginning, and neither the human soldier nor Saria could escape what was coming. The arena stood on the edge of chaos. The crowd was split, voices clashing like thunder, half demanding exile, half demanding honor. The elders raised their staffs again, their golden eyes burning with judgment. The human soldier felt the weight of 1,000 stares pressing against him. Syria's hand was still on his chest, steady, glowing with the faint silver light of her markings. In that moment he realized he was not standing alone. One elder stepped forward, robes dragging against the stone floor. His voice was sharp, cutting through the noise. The bond is sealed. But this union brings danger, he declared. A deathworlder cannot be trusted with our blood. The crowd roared in agreement. But another elder shouted back, he fought, he endured. He spared her when he could have killed. The law speaks clearly. He is worthy. Their voices clashed, their staffs struck the stone. The sound echoed like thunder across the arena. The soldier gripped his blade tighter. He did not know their words, but he could feel the storm building. Syria stepped forward, her voice steady. You cannot break us, she said, her tone carrying across the arena. Her eyes glowed. Her markings shone brighter with every heartbeat. This bond is mine, and I will carry it even if you cast me out, the crowd gasped. The younger warriors cheered. For them, her defiance was not weakness. It was strength. The soldier looked at her, his chest tightening. She was risking everything for him, and he could not let her stand alone. He raised his blade, pointing it toward the elders. I don't care about your laws, he shouted, his voice rough. But if you try to take her from me, you'll find out what my world made me. The words were foreign to them, but his tone was fire. The crowd fell silent for a heartbeat. Even the elders flinched at the raw power in his voice for the first time. They saw not just an outsider, not just a human. They saw a deathworlder, something dangerous, something unbreakable. Syria's heart pounded. No warrior of her people had ever spoken like this. But this human had, without fear, without hesitation, and for the first time she felt pride. Not just in herself, but in him. The bond was no longer just law. It was choice. She reached for his hand, their fingers locking together. The crowd erupted again, chanting louder than before. Not just her name, not just his, but both together. It was a sound like destiny itself. The elders tried to silence the people, but the younger warriors banged their blades against the stone. The rhythm grew louder, stronger, unstoppable. Change had already begun. The bond was no longer just between two warriors. It was between two worlds. The human soldier did not understand their chants, but he understood the fire in their eyes. Something inside him told him this was no mistake, that this moment would echo far beyond the walls of this arena. Syria turned to him, her voice softer now, only for him. You do not know what you have done, she whispered, but you have changed everything. He looked into her eyes, seeing both fear and hope. Then we face it together, he said. Her lips trembled into a smile, the first real smile he had ever seen from her. She nodded once, firm and proud. Yes, she whispered, together. The elders, seeing the crowd's fire, lowered their staffs. They could not fight the tide of their own people. And so the golden-eyed elder spoke again. Let it be known, he declared. This bond is sealed. This bond is law. And the human walks among us as chosen. The crowd's roar shook the ground. The soldier felt the weight of those words settle into him. He was no longer just a fighter. He was part of something greater, something dangerous, something eternal. As the crowd carried them out of the arena, Syria leaned closer, her voice trembling but firm. This is only the beginning, she said. He frowned, his hand tightening around hers. What do you mean, he asked. Her eyes darkened, her markings glowing hotter. My people will not all accept this. Others will come, others will challenge. And we must stand ready. The soldier's heart pounded, another fight, another war. But this time he was not alone. He looked at her. Her strength, her fire, her defiance. And for the first time since stepping into the arena, he felt something new. Not fear, not confusion, but belonging. Perhaps this bond was not a trap, not a mistake. Perhaps it was destiny. The drums thundered again, not of war, but of celebration. The crowd's chant became one word, rebirth. The law had changed, the bond was sealed, and history had been broken. The soldier walked out of the arena with Syria at his side, their hands still locked, their fates tied, and though he did not know where the path led, he knew one truth. This was no longer the story of one human and one alien. It was the beginning of something that could shake the galaxy itself.